Yeah, so I think we can start since everybody's here, inshallah. But I just want to ask maybe this the guys that weren't here now. If you guys have anything in mind that you want to cover in the course or that you think we must discuss, we're looking forward to anything. Any questions before we start? Nothing, nothing. Okay, we can go ahead, inshallah. So, um, a while ago, Sheikh Imtiaz told me that it, it's not a bad idea for somebody to like teach the students how to make money, because students here in Egypt, they will be going, they'll be studying for a long period of time, and when they come back home, you have a limited number of options with what you studied, right? So you're gonna become an imam, a sheikh, maybe a teacher, maybe you're gonna be working in the halal industry, whatever. The options are very limited, and the pay is not very good. So it's not a bad idea to teach students how to make money. And also, from my perspective, alhamdulillah, like, I've been had a passion for business for maybe like almost 10 years, starting different businesses, doing different things, buying and selling, starting out buying and selling secondhand stuff on Gumtree. So this is something that I like to do. I like to learn about it, and so I thought I'll try and put something together to share it with you guys, and so that you can have an introduction to business, to make it easier for you guys to do business if you want to do that, right? To give you the option to start a business, and also to kind of guide you. So there is a little bit of a disclaimer that this is, from my experience, what I would consider the best way to go about starting a business. But there's other ways to think about it. And if you come across the other way, you can let me know, or you can, at least you will have two different options, two different choices to go about things, right? So inshallah, that's the basic introduction. I put the dua here because that I think is quite relevant. اللهم اغفر لي بحلالك عن حرامك وأغنني بفضلك عمن سواك. So the course is designed to get you guys to be self-sustainable, to not depend on other people. So this is a dua to ask Allah to make you dependent on Allah alone, right? And not be dependent on other people. So inshallah, hopefully that's useful. Remember me when you make the dua, inshallah. So yeah, so that's, like I mentioned, it's a practical workshop for you guys to start a business. And I really, really, really hope that you take what you've learned here, inshallah, and start something. Even if it doesn't go well the first time, try and try again, because like anything that you do, you're not going to get it right the first time. Most likely, you're not going to get it perfect the first time, but don't ever let that put you off. Business can be learned, in my opinion, and it's like any other skill. It's like becoming a soccer player. Nobody's just born a good soccer player. Maybe some people have experience, maybe they played when they were younger, but if you really wanted to, you can train hard. And it's also made up of different aspects. So like a good soccer player can maybe defend, he can attack, he can score goals, he can do whatever. A business person, maybe he can sell, he can, he can think of good ideas for his business, he can manage people well. There's different aspects in a business that you can train yourself to become better at, inshallah. So yeah, that's where we're going to go. Also, I want to train you, or like at least open you up to the idea that you can look at the world from a different point of view. You can look at the world with the eye of opportunity, and you're looking at the world in a way that you looking out constantly for opportunity. Any product you see, you think, is this a good product to buy or sell? What can I do to make this better? What can I do to make this cheaper? Do people want this? Like constantly in my journey in Egypt, I look at things that I've seen in Egypt only that I haven't seen in South Africa, and I think like, would people want this in South Africa? It's maybe a good idea. It's not a good idea. So if you do that constantly, inshallah, like the first few ideas you come up with maybe not so good, but if you have 100 ideas, maybe one of them is going to be a really good idea. So train yourself to constantly be on the lookout for good ideas. Once you found a good idea, inshallah, try your best to stick with that. That's we're gonna come to at the end of the course in terms of sticking with one thing and not just chopping and changing. But yeah, like I said, try and look out for good ideas, inshallah. Once you find that, and try and stick with it, inshallah. So the first point of discussion is, what is a business? And the reason this is important for me is because a lot of people think that a business is maybe a factory. Now you must have this many shops, you must have this many employees, you must, have this much money. But the reality is, none of those things are actually a business. A person can point at their factory and say, "This is my business," but in reality, that's only his factory. His business is comprised of many other things, of like selling his name, if you have any patents, stuff like that, different things. But a business, in my view, is just a vehicle to transact, right? A vehicle for transactions to take place. So you can start a business by the end of this class, you can maybe have a name, and you can have an idea, and you can say, "I'm going to buy and sell computer monitors." So that becomes your business, because you now on the lookout for buying computer monitors. You're going to buy it on Gumtree or Dubizzle, whatever, Facebook Marketplace, and you're going to start selling it. And slowly, people will know that you are into that field of business. And then, in that way, you kind of started a business. There's no physical thing as a business. There's no limit. There's no minimum, how many employees you need, how much money you need, how much, physical space you need, stores, factories, whatever. So with that being said, I want you guys to, take it easy on yourselves, and don't be so afraid of the word business. Not saying that you are, but I'm just saying a lot of people think of it as this big thing, like, "I'm going to start a business, I'm starting a business." Don't let it build up in your mind. Like, you can start a business, by the time you leave this workshop, inshallah. So that's the idea of why we're covering what the business is. And also, like I said, it's a vehicle. So the better your vehicle, the better you can do, right? So say, for example, it's almost like a car. A car is a vehicle, but you get cars that are faster, nicer cars, more comfortable, all of those things. The same thing with a business also. The better you build your business, the more time you invest in it, the better that machine is, the better that vehicle is, the better it's going to be for you, right? So say, for example, Lutfi have a Ferrari and I have a Toyota. Lutfi's going to go to a place, he's going to get there faster than me because his vehicle is better than my vehicle. So that's what we want to do. We want to build a business that works smoothly and works well, inshallah. So yeah. So like I said, a business is a vehicle for transactions to take place. What are we going to be transacting? We're going to be, basically, you're going to offer a service or a good in exchange for money. You want other people to give you money for what you're offering. That's the transaction that's going to take place. Now, we want to speak a little bit about what money is also. And money, in my opinion, or from how I view it, is it's an indicator of value. So what does that mean? Like, money is an indicator of value. It means that, say, for example, a student has £1,000, right? He's in Egypt. The tap water is not drinkable, and he has £1,000 to live every month. So he needs to buy bottled water. So say the bottle of water maybe costs like £5 for a bottle of water, right? And he buys 10 bottles of water, so that's £50. But he has only £1,000, right? So he takes that £1,000 and he says that I value drinking water so much, bottled drinking water so much, and I'm willing to spend £50, and that's enough for me for the month. But now take that same bottle of water, that's £5, and take that same student that has £1,000 and just change one thing that is like almost not even related to that bottle of water. Just change the fact that the drinking water in Egypt becomes drinkable. I mean, the tap water becomes drinkable. It becomes pure. It becomes good for him to drink. Then that same student who would have spent £50, he now doesn't value that bottle of water the same. So he will now spend nothing on bottled water because he can drink that water, right? So this is the idea of value. The price of the water stayed the same, but the value of that water changed for that student, right? So I wanted to take another example also. Say you have a traveler that's going out, he's going to a far place, and it's maybe back in the day, whatever, and he's like in a desert, and he runs out of water, but he sees a shop in the middle of nowhere, and the guy at the shop is selling that same bottle of water that was £5. He's selling that bottle of water for £50, right? So you, or this traveler, for example, because there's no other options available to him, and he's dying, it's like dying of thirst, he's going to stock up on that water, he's going to pay that £50. And if he's a wealthy person, that might be nothing for him. So he might be feeling like, I'm getting a good deal, or whatever the case is, £50, I'm happy to pay that. If he's like a poor person, like maybe myself or whatever, you will say, look, I'm not going to pay £50 for a bottle of water. I mean, we've been to that place sometimes, like on the airport, you go there and small bottle of water is like 50 Rand, and you check, nah, look here, I'm rather going to die first, but I'm not going to do that. So in that same way, the traveler is, the bottle of water is 50 pounds. That's the price of the bottle of water, right? So the value of that bottle of water to that traveler who can afford it is 50 pounds, right? So if, for example, there's no other shops around him, that person will be happy to buy that bottle of water for 50 rand because it's going to keep him going, right? But now, say for example, that officer, I mean that shop, sells that same bottle of water for 10 rand, for 10 pounds. You know, that traveler that's coming there, that's dying of thirst, that's willing to pay 50 pounds, he's going to be happy to pay 10 pounds for that bottle of water. You know, he's going to be ecstatic because he finds a lot more value in that bottle of water now, right? There's no other water around him. So he's happy to pay 10 pounds. Yeah, so that's the difference between price uh, and value, right? So the value of the water is 50 pounds, but here the price of the water is 10 pounds, right?
So to provide value is just to make something cheaper.
It's not necessarily to make something cheaper, because um, that to provide value for that shopkeeper, he can sell that bottle of water for 50 pounds, right? And he's still providing value, right? I'm just trying to explain to you the concept of the difference between price and value. But it doesn't mean that you must make stuff cheaper to get more value. But value can be, you can create value by different things. For example, maybe uniqueness or scarcity. In this case, it's scarcity. The bottle of water is scarce, so I can charge 50 pounds for that bottle of water. Even though it cost me 10 pounds, people will be happy to pay that. I'm just trying to show you the difference between value and price. Price is fixed, but value is subjective. Value changes based on the person and also based on the circumstances. But we're going to look at a bit more about value later, inshallah, and you can also tell me what's your thoughts on that, inshallah. So, yeah, I also want to give another simple example similar to that. Say you go on an aeroplane and you can't take water with you, and you see that the airlines is charging 50 pounds also for the bottle of water, right? um, you know what? You're gonna be like, okay, look here, I'm on an 8 hour flight. I need to get at least a bottle of water. So you're gonna say, look here, I'm gonna pay you 50 pounds, all right? But say for example, that same airlines, they were selling that bottle of water for 5 pounds, the same price that you can get it here. You're gonna be happy with that. You know what I'm saying? Like um, you're going to be telling people, look here, man, this is a good airlines. They're not ripping people off, or they're not taking advantage of people, even though they can, or they know what they can, whatever the case is, charge higher prices. They're still charging a decent price. So I'll touch back to that example later on, inshallah. But yeah, there's another point that I want to mention there. It's like worth my money or worth the money. So this is also to do with value, because it's like, say for example, FlySaf is maybe having a sale from here to Cape Town for like 2,000, and all of us here will say like, look here, it's worth it. It's worth the value, right? But you're not going to say it's worth my money. I'm not going to pay 2,000 and just because they're having a flight sale, because we need to do stuff here. Maybe we have exams here and stuff like that. So there is that idea that value is not always subjective. It can be a little bit, everybody can agree, look here, this is something value for money, or this is value. But I just wanted to also touch on that idea. But for the most part, think of value as something that is subjective, that changes based on the situation and based on the person also. Yeah, perceived value. This is another thing. So, um, a perceived value is like, say, for example, that traveler that's in the middle of nowhere, he sees the water for 50 pounds and he's willing to pay 50 pounds for that bottle of water. But if he was a local in that area, he would have known that he could go around the corner and there's a tap there that gives free clean water. Would that person still want to pay 50 pounds for that same bottle of water if he knew there's a tap around the corner? Most likely wouldn't, because you can just go there and get water for free. But now there's people charging you 50 pounds, right? So there's this idea that sometimes value is not real, it's more just perceived as the way the person's looking at things, what the person sees, right? So that's also another point that you must keep in mind, inshallah. Um, yeah. So our goal as people that want to start a business, whatever business it is to offer something of value But the better goal is to offer something where the value is more than the price, right? That is for us, to make it business simple for you guys, this is your main goal when finding a product to sell. If you can make sure that the value of that item to the person that's buying it is more than the price, that person's always going to be coming back to you, inshallah. Like, he's going to be recommending it to other people. That you're going to have a customer for life, basically, if you can do that. Think about any of the examples that we mentioned here. If the value is more than the price, that person's going to buy it with a smile on their face, inshallah. So, yeah. So now we're saying, we understand what a business is. We understand value and price. We understand the transaction that's taking place. So you're gonna give somebody something, and they're gonna give you money in return. But how do we find out what is a good thing to sell? How do we know what is a good product to sell? That's most probably the biggest issue for somebody that wants to start a business, but that doesn't have a product in mind, right? So how I would approach this is, there's two sides of the story, right? You need to consider what you can supply, what you can give people, and you also need to consider what people want, right? So you need to keep both of these things in mind at the same time. So now you can sell stuff. You want to sell stuff. What do you personally sell? Can you sell all the stuff in your house? Can you sell the clothing that you have? You can do that, and you can make some money, but it's not really a profit because you're just selling all the stuff that you have, and at the end of the day, you're going to run out of stuff to sell. So a business needs to sell stuff that they can continuously make or that they continuously buy in, right? And they can do that over and over again, inshallah. So, like I mentioned to you guys, in my opinion, in my experience, a great business is a business that can sell the same thing over and over again, right? So, say for example, you teach Arabic and you make an ebook, you make it once off, and you just sell it multiple times to different people, whatever the case is. It doesn't cost you more money to sell it, and it's quite simple. It's an easy thing to sell, right? But yeah, so let's move on to the next point of, like I said, supply and demand. In the supply side of things, like, you as a student, you have limited options, right? You have limited money, you have limited time, you maybe don't know a lot of people, all of those things. And this limitation is actually, it can be a good thing for you, because if a person has too many options, then it can be a bad thing for them, right? So if you have too many options, say for example, you want to get married, now you have like 10 girls in front of you, and you get married to one of them, you make your istikhara, then you check, yeah, I should have married the other girl, she was prettier, or she cooked better food, whatever. You're always going to have that on your mind. But now a person who doesn't have an option, and look, the people of the village come to him and say, look here, there's a girl that wants to get married, do you want to get married? That guy says yes, and he's not going to have that on the back of his mind, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have married that other person. So sometimes limited options can be a good thing. So now what I want you guys to do, inshallah, when you get home, when you start your business, when you start thinking about what you can do, is to write down all of the stuff that you have. And when I talk about the stuff that you have here, what I mean is actually write down everything that Allah has given you, or that you've experienced in your life, any abilities that you have, any connections, any network, any interest that you have. So you write down all of these things, and from that we will see how we can create a product on the supply side of things, what we can offer, right? So I wrote a small example here. Maybe we have a student that has 1,000 rand in the pocket. He goes to his school, so he can basically work on his business after 2 o'clock, because he only goes from 8 to 2 in the morning. So he has time on his hands. Firstly, he has some money to work with. Secondly, he has time on his hands. Thirdly, maybe he's memorized the Quran. A student might also write down on this list, I can read and write, I can use social media, I can learn new skills online. Maybe he says, I live in a poor area. Maybe he says, I have an interest in gardening and I have some experience in that. I'm young and I don't have a family to support, so if I lose all my money, it's not the end of the world. I want you to look at this kind of list and just think about your own situation, because each and every one of you have different things that you can add on this list, and that different things makes you unique and gives you an advantage in some way. the trick is for you to look at these things and say, how can I make this an advantage, right? So all of us here, we're very similar in a lot of ways, right? We maybe can read Arabic, we can bacha the Quran, maybe some of us memorize the Quran, and maybe some of us, we come from poor areas, whatever, maybe also you can say we know how to use social media, we know how to read and write. Now you're thinking in your mind, but the stuff that I mentioned now, everybody can do that stuff. But the reality is that not everybody can do all of those stuff that you mentioned. There's a lot of people that can't do many of those things that we mentioned. There's a lot of people, if you look at it back home, that can't read and write. There's a lot of people, if you look at it back home, that can't recite the Quran, let alone people that's memorized the Quran. Because we are in an environment where those things are like common, we tend to think that that is a natural thing, that's everybody can do it, We look at it around us, we're looking around us at the people and we're saying everybody here can speak Arabic. There's no unique point in that. But I mean, like, look, maybe Abdul Qadir, he's coming from PE, no? So if he goes back home, maybe there's a limited number of people that can speak Arabic, but there are some Muslims there that want to learn how to speak Arabic, or a limited number of Muslims that actually memorize the Quran, right? So in terms of that, if we had to start a business like that, it would be an advantage for him that he knows Arabic. But you wouldn't know what your advantages are if you didn't like list them out, right? And you also have to compare it to the other people around you. So they call this kind of like an unfair advantage. And from my perspective, like, I've thought about this, and in light of like the Quran, like there's an ayah that says, Allah faddala ba'dukum ala ba'din fi rizq. Like Allah has preferred some of you among others in rizq. And the rizq is not only the money that you have, but whatever you have to live and sustain yourself, right? The skills that you have and all of those things. So take this as a guideline when thinking of this. You have a lot of forms of rizq that you haven't used, your connections that your ability to learn, for example, your ability to recite the Quran. These are all things of rizq. And now we want to know how can we use those things to provide a service that is valuable, right? So like I mentioned before, each one of us has different interests. Not only interests, but different points on this list. So even me and my brother, we have different stuff. Even though we grew up in the same household, we have different advantages, different unfair advantages. If I had to start a business compared to my brother, he might, I like soccer, so I have a network of friends that like soccer. So I can maybe start a soccer jersey business. But he likes rugby, so he has a network of rugby friends. You know what I'm saying? So each of us has a different set of advantages that we can use, and you want to take those advantages and basically make something out of it. So with this list over here, I wrote a small kind of a scenario. Maybe that boy, that student who's living in a poor area, he has time on his hands, he can learn how to do vegetable gardening because he has an interest in it. So if you have an interest in something like that, it becomes easier for you. We have an interest in Quran and Arabic and stuff like that. So it kind of becomes easier for us to take the time out to learn about those things. And say he starts a vegetable gardening business. Maybe it's a piece of land where he can garden on, or maybe he decides, you know what, I'm going to learn how to do vegetable gardening, and then I'm going to teach those around me. The fact that he lives in a poor area is then an advantage because people in that area might have an incentive to grow their own food, right? So you need to figure out what does the people around you want to do, and how you can use that to your advantage. And I also want to mention a small point here that people will spend money on what they value. Don't think that, people don't have money for this thing. I lived in Mitchell's Plain growing up, and then the people wouldn't pay the school fees, but at Christmas time, their lights will have new Jordans on. The kids will have new, like 3,000 Rand Jordans on. The school fees is 250 Rand. So don't think that people don't have money. People spend money on what they value, right? And then, like I said, we're not using all the points in our example because we haven't touched on maybe the hifz aspect of that student. So say, for example, we want to create another scenario, another business for that student. What we can say is that student knows people that studied hifz, which means that like the people that he went to school with, to madrasa with, which means that he has a network or access to that network of people, right? And he also has access to their parents, and the parents their parents, we can assume they want the best for their children in this life and the year after. So they want to do hifth, and they want to do maybe their kids must do well in this life, so they want to send them to university. But the problem in South Africa is that a lot of the hifth schools, they don't do these subjects, academic subjects, so they don't have the opportunity for the students to go on to university, right? So if you think about it like that, you could arrange for somebody to teach those subjects to the hifth students, right? So you have an access to that network of hifth students, and you can use that network that you have. I actually know somebody like that. Is a guy, I think in Cairo. What's his name? Rashid. Yeah, he started something like that, a school for, or like they come to madrasas and hifz schools and stuff like that, and they teach the children academic studies. And the point I want to also make about that scenario is that you basically offering the service of teaching the kids academic studies, mathematics, physics, whatever the case is. But now, just picture, for example, you going to that student and that HIF student, and you're telling him, look here, I have a business that I'm teaching HIF students maths, physics, biology, geography, and all of those things. That HIF student, even if he had all the money in the world, he'll probably go spend the money on video games, right? Even though that's good stuff for him, but he doesn't have that incentive to go and do that, to pay for academic studies. But if you approach that student's parents and say to them, look here, I have this program where I'm allowing students to go to university, and I'm teaching HIF students maths, physics, whatever the case is, that person's parents might be much more willing to pay for the service that you have to give. So the point of that discussion is that you need to understand the incentives. You need to understand who has the incentive to buy what you're selling. In both scenarios, the first one and the second one, you are teaching the student maths, physics, and science. But in the difference is that in the first scenario, you approach the student and tell them, I have this service. Do you want to buy it? Obviously, the student's going to say no, because you don't want to do that. You want to rather go chill at home, whatever the case is. But in the second scenario, you approaching the parent who has an incentive for that student to do well in this life and in the year after, right? So that is the power of incentives. You need to understand the incentives. You need to understand who you're selling to and who wants to buy the product that you have, right? So you can either sell to the parents or you can sell to the kids. Then the other thing, I wrote, there's the accountant versus the founder. So say, for example, that student approached us and say, look, there's a lot of students here that haven't finished matric, that want to do matric, whatever. And then, I say, I'm the accountant or the treasurer of SASA. I say, look here, we don't have the money for that. You know what, we can't do it now. But if you had to approach the founder of SASA, maybe approach Yasin, and with that service, he might say, look here, we're going to find a way to make the money so that we can give the students this service, because this is something that we value for the students. So even in an organization, different people will have different incentives, and you need to understand who has the incentive to buy what you are selling. Yeah, so I wrote there also, success is closer to the one who understands the power of incentives. You must understand who has the incentive to buy what you're selling. Sheikh, can I move on? Or?
Yes.
So after you've done that, you've understood, you've gotten, you understood value, you understood the concept of a business, you need to get the product, you've written down all the things that you can supply, and you've also thought about the incentive, basically the demand. Will people buy this thing, and who will buy this thing? And is there enough people that will buy this thing? Now you're looking at, you need to know what you are selling, right? So you know the product that you have to sell, that you want to sell in mind, but you also need to know the cost of that product. So say, for example, you want to start a teaching business, you need to know the cost of that business. Every hour of teaching, you need to know how much does it cost me to teach the student. It's going to cost you an hour of your time, but it's also going to cost you the time that it takes to get to that place and to get back home and whatever preparation you need to do. So you need to know very well your costs to produce. It's very logical. Business in general is very, very logical. If you don't know how much it costs to produce that thing, how will you know if you're making a product, a profit when you're selling that thing? If you don't know how much it costs to produce, how will you know how much you must sell it for, or if you're actually making a profit, right? So with that being said, there's two kind of costs that you want to look at. One is fixed costs and one is variable costs. So fixed cost, say you're starting a madrasa, right? And the madrasa rent is like 10,000 rand for the month, and it can take 100 students, right? Um, whether you have 10 students or whether you have 50 students or whether you have 80 students, the rent is going to be the same. So that's what we call a fixed cost in business. But variable cost changes with the amount of products that you're selling or services that you're selling. So a variable cost will maybe it's hard to say in that example, but maybe say for example you're selling pens, right? And one pen maybe costs like 10 rand. And if you want to sell 10 pens, then it's going to be 100 rand, right? But if you want to sell one pen, then it's only going to be 10 rand. So that's variable cost. That cost will change with the amount of products that you're selling. So you get that?
If you want to sell.
Yeah, so if you want to sell, so say for example, you're selling pens and you want to sell one pen, it's going to be 10 rand. If you want to sell 100 pens, or maybe say 10 pens, it's going to be 100 rand. It changes based on the amount of stuff that you're selling. If you're teaching Arabic, for example, maybe the rent you're paying for your apartment is a fixed cost, but the hours that you're going to put in is variable, right? For example, say you want to teach maybe one student per hour, you only have 8 hours in a day that you can teach. If you're teaching one student for the day, that's 1 hour. If you're teaching 8 students for the day, that's 8 hours. You need to know how much does it cost me to teach one student, how much does it cost me to teach 5 students, how much does it cost me to teach 8 students. That cost will change because it depends on how much students you have, right? So that's the difference between fixed cost and a variable cost. So say for example, you were paying like 10,000 rand for an apartment, and you selling pens out of the apartment. If you sold maybe 100 pens or maybe 10 pens, so you made 100 rand, and oh sorry, say that the pens cost 10 rand and you're selling it for 20 rand, right? So say you sold 10 pens, that means you sold it for 200 rand, right? And you made 100 rand profit. So you thinking to yourself, you're quiet, I made 100 rand profit, but at the end of the day, you actually made a loss of 9,900 rand because you didn't take into consideration the cost of the apartment that you're selling from, right? So that's the reason you need to know fixed cost and you need to know variable cost. You need to know the full cost of your operation, right? Yeah. So, like I said before, great businesses sell great products. Our aim here is to sell great products. Our aim is to find a product that is more valuable than the price of that product. And the reality is that you will never really know if a product will do good. You're always going to be guessing. It's always going to be an estimation. It's always going to be a prediction that this is something that people want to buy. Because how can you know people's actually going to buy what you want to sell? It's more of a guess, right? And the better you get at it, the more accurate it becomes. So, in order to get around this, you have to do testing and you have to discuss it with other people. It's because you are like the easiest person for yourself to fool. If I tell myself, look here, you're Salo, you must a handsome guy, then every day, you're thinking that yourself, but in reality, it's not the case. You just told yourself that, and now you keep telling yourself that. The same thing with the products also. You tell yourself like, know what, this product is quite, this whiteboard marker can sharpen itself. This is a quite product. And now you invest all your money into that whiteboard marker, thinking that, you know what, I'm going to sell it to everybody because it's such a quite product. Once you've now got the products and you've paid all the money and stuff like that, you start selling it. Nobody wants to buy whiteboard markers because everybody's using chalk or maybe everybody's using projectors and stuff like that. So you need to, in order to know whether the product is good or not, you need to discuss it with other people. Like I said, you're the easiest person to fool. So how do you combat that? You discuss it with other people, like-minded people, maybe someone that has experience in business, They're going to ask you questions. They're going to tell you, is this really a good product? They're going to bring some challenges up. You want somebody to challenge you. If after you've spoken to a few people and you still think that this is a good product, then you can move on to the next stage, which is to test the product or test the market, what they say. Basically, testing the market means that you're going to get that product for sale and you're going to see the people's reactions. You're going to see, do they actually want it? Are they willing to buy it? How many people's willing to buy it? If nobody wants to buy the product that you're selling, then you already have an idea. Look here, this is maybe not such a good idea, or maybe I need to sell to other people. But if the reaction is good and people come to you and they want to buy it and they say, when are you going to start selling? We need this product and stuff like that. Then look, I have a good product in mind. And there's another thing that I want to touch on is also, they call this first product the minimum viable option product, the MVP, right? So it's like, say for example, you want to sell good quality pens and you want to produce customized pens with people's names on it, whatever the case is. Now, for you to produce those pens is going to cost a lot of money because you need to have the equipment, the factory, whatever the case is. But if you just find a supplier that sells high quality customized pens already, you can then test that market. You can buy from them and sell it to people, as opposed to investing in a factory to make the pens. So once you've sold a product that is like, that captures what you want to provide to people, even though it's maybe not efficient, even though it's maybe not at the cost that you want to do it, you should try and do that as soon as possible to test your idea. So like, this is maybe a good example, this business class. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I wasn't sure, like, is it good? What am I going to say? All of those things. So the best thing for me to do at that point is to say, look, I'm just going to advertise. I'm just going to do it. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. We're going to improve and perfect it along the way, inshallah. So that is an example of the minimum viable product. You want to start with the product, and then you want to improve it and improve it and improve it until it gets better, until it gets to where you want it to be. And I wrote there also a little bit of a hadith that I learned in Markaz. إن الله يحب إذا عمل أحدكم عملا أن يتقنه. If Allah loves that the person, if he does something with excellence, and he does something well. And the reason I put this here is because that I wanted to know that, we should always continuously try to improve and do excellent work. And I think that's something that's missing within our Muslim community. We don't really provide excellent products or service. We don't really commit ourselves to making stuff that's like worth making or that's excellent. You think about any business today, most of the time it's like, not non-Muslims running it. You think about, like, if you think about a phone product, a phone brand, you think about Apple, you think about Samsung, Huawei, whatever the case is. There aren't Muslims that are willing to go that mile, but these, like non-Muslims, they are motivated, but they understand that great businesses sell great products. So they want to make great businesses, so they're focusing on making great products. They will put the time in and the effort in to innovate, to create something great, because they know that they're going to reap the reward. But for us, it's also an incentive that Allah loves, that when a person does something, he does it to excellence, he does it well, inshallah. So just something to keep in mind. So yeah, I mentioned this about the minimum viable product. You are the easiest person to fool. And how do you know if a product is also good? There's a small test that you can do with yourself and with other people. Is like, do you think that people are likely to recommend this product? Right? So you're making a product, you're having a service, whatever the case is. Before you started selling it, you ask yourself, are people going to recommend this product? If it's not the case that people's going to recommend this product, without me being there, without me having to ask them to share it and stuff like that, then maybe you don't have such a great product that you think you do have. Because if a product is really great, if a product really provides that value, people's going to talk about it without you having to ask them. Like I said with the aeroplane example, say for example, you go on Qatar Airways and you're thinking, this people's going to charge me 50 Rand for a bottle of water because there's no water here. And they say, look here, actually the bottle of water is 5 Rand. You're going to think like, I got a good deal there. The next time somebody brings up an airlines, you're going to say, Qatar Airways is actually good airlines because they gave bottles of water for 5 Rand when they could have charged 50 Rand. You know what I'm saying? So without even somebody probing them, or without even somebody asking them, the customer will recommend their service to other people. That's how you know, like, you have a good or a great product, you know. Um, and this is a test that you can do beforehand already. You might not be 100% accurate. Like I said, you're estimating, you're guessing, you're making a prediction, but this is something to think about, to keep in mind. And there's a guy called Seth Godin. He's also like he has business books and stuff like that. And he basically calls this being remarkable. Make a product that somebody's willing to make a remark about, you know, make something different, make something quite, um, make something that people are willing to talk about. And that talking is like basically free advertising for you. Like, for example, I bought fries, samosas. I told people like, nah, look here, the samosas is quite, you must try it. Like, I'll be willing to buy it. So it's like without him even being there or asking me, because the product is so good, you're willing to recommend it to other people. That is what you want to strive for when you're looking at what product can I sell, or what service can I sell. Like I said, also you can discuss it with somebody that you trust, right? And then there's another point that's also kind of relevant here, is that if you, for example, a good baker, doesn't mean that you're going to be a good, you're going to start a good bakery, you're going to run a good bakery, because being good at making something or teaching something, whatever the case is, doesn't mean that you're going to have a good business in that thing. It's two different set of skills, right? So making or running a bakery is closer to running a butcher than it is to making a loaf of bread. What does that mean? It means like um, in a business, in a butcher, and having a business of a bakery, there's a certain set of skills that you can use in both cases, right? If you know the principles, you can apply it in both cases. But running a bakery and making a loaf of bread, there's very little skills that you can use for both of these cases, right? So that's what they call the e-myth, or the entrepreneurial myth. It's a myth that people think that if they're good at baking a cake, they can start a bakery and it will have a successful bakery. That's not really factual, because the person doesn't understand costs. They don't understand demand. If people actually want to do it, buy the product, they don't understand how to sell all of these things. So that's what they call the e-myth. Yeah, then we're going to move on to innovation. Just touch on it. The most profitable thing that you can do is to innovate, is to do something that's better. Yeah, bidah. In not in an Islamic sense, but otherwise, yeah, innovation is good. Take for example, uh, let me see, any yeah, I have an example in mind. So we all in Egypt, we all rode a tuk-tuk. You know, it's nothing for us. Like, we're not going to be excited if we must go to the shop with a tuk-tuk, right? We've done it. It's like a common sta'ada, it's the norm. But in Cape Town, if you bring a tuk-tuk to Cape Town, people's going to be like, yo, what's this thing? Like, I want to ride this tuk-tuk. I want to go around. You know, can it take me to Pick and Pay, whatever the case is. But there's actually a guy that started a business taking people on tuk-tuk rides in Campsway or in Chapman's Peak, right? So you have two things. You have, on the one side, you have like a tuk-tuk ride, which for us is not valuable, and the other side you have Chapman's Peak or Scenic Drive. So once you bring those two things together, then you create a new experience. You basically innovating. So it's bringing two things from different fields together and innovating. Another one is maybe like um, sweet samosas. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, there's a guy on Instagram who's showing like how to make ice cream samosas. Like, make it out of pancakes and ice cream in the middle, and they fry it. And it's like samosa on itself is not really unique. Like, selling samosa on itself is not really unique. But now, and selling ice cream on itself is not really unique. But once you now combine these two things, you're coming up with a unique thing. I'm not saying that's a good business. I don't know if it's good, but I'm just trying to get the point across that that's how we innovate. And I don't want, like, you guys shouldn't aim to innovate. You shouldn't aim to just bring two things together because for the sake of it, right? You should bring two things together because it makes sense. It solves a problem or it adds value. So, for example, like phones, there was a time when they could only phone. You could only phone from a phone. Now you can WhatsApp, you can email, you can do all of those things. Like, You could only email on a computer, and you could only phone on a phone. But once they put those two things together, you're innovating and you're creating value in the product. So yeah. So there are a few things to avoid also when selling, and like I'm sure you guys will have come across some of these examples. The first one there I put is begging people to buy from you. Now, what do I mean there? It's like a lot of people start a business and they like advertise and like, please support, can you support my business? Then they send you a message like, please support, like, and after a while, then you check, like, I don't really want to buy the stuff, but the person's asking for support, and out of sympathy, I'm buying it. That's a sign that you have a bad business, in my opinion. If you have to ask people constantly to buy from you, to support your business, right? Basically begging people to buy from you. That's something to avoid. And then another thing is selling because you can. So if you ignored all the stuff that I said earlier, and you just said like, look here, I'm in Egypt now. People in back home, they maybe need salat tops. There's a lot of salat tops in Egypt. I can do it. You're selling because you can sell something. Or somebody come to you with an idea and say, look here, maybe can we like sell firewood? Now you say, okay, yeah, we can. Let's do it. Let's start a business. Now, in that circumstances, you're just selling because you can. You didn't think it through. You didn't think, why is this a good idea? Why would people buy firewood from me? What value am I adding? All of these things. You didn't consider all of these things. So try and avoid selling because you can. And then the other thing is selling the same thing as other people because it's working for them. In Cape Town, there's a very big thing. People, when they see something's working for somebody else, then they just want to copy that business. This, but I have a car wash. Now I'm going to open up a car wash. I used to sell fruit and veg, and then I used to make a box that's mixed, and it used to be 150 rand, like fruit and veg and stuff like that. And there was another competitor that was in the area. They were also selling fruit and veg, and they had their own store, whatever. But then they started seeing this thing is working for me, like people's buying it. They didn't just copy what I was doing. They literally took a screenshot of my box that I was selling, and then they advertised that same thing with that screenshot on. And I know because I can see my garage in the background there. So people just do that because they think it's working for other people. You shouldn't do that. It's not good. You have to ask yourself what makes me different. Why would somebody buy this from me? Is it my quality is better? Am I offering it for cheaper? Like I said, you're creating value by offering it cheaper. Not only offering cheaper, is it better? Is it different? Is it more accessible to people? Sometimes a good product. Sometimes you can do things other people are doing, but maybe in an area where nobody's doing it. So we have access to the internet. We see maybe there's a lot of food trucks happening. But say, for example, you stayed in Worcester where there's no food trucks, and you say, okay, I'm going to open up a food truck. Like that makes sense because there's nobody else doing it where you're doing it, right? So yeah, you have to have something that differentiates you. And then another thing to avoid is investing too much without testing a product. I did mention this earlier. Don't buy the factory to make the pens if you haven't been able to sell pens. Don't say, look, yeah, I want to start a farm selling chicken eggs if you haven't had any experience selling eggs. First, sell eggs to the people around you, and then see, okay, can I do this? Is this a good business? How can I go about it? So don't invest all your money without trying something first. And even when you do try something, don't also invest too much, right? So say, for example, you have 1,000 rand in the bank, and now you want to start a business selling pens or whatever the case is. Now you say, I'm going to buy a container of pens from China, but it's going to cost me 20,000 rand. You're going to put yourself in debt. You're going to put yourself in a deep situation. And if the product doesn't work, you're going to find yourself in a hard place. So this is something to avoid when starting businesses. Yeah, if you say you want to start selling pens, you have 1,000 rand, maybe invest 500 rand and say, okay, I'm going to try this. If it don't work, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I still have another 500 rand. I can do something else, or I can make more money and then start again. Yeah, then another thing to avoid is like worrying too much about the name of a business. So you have a product, you tested it, whatever the case is, now you need to name the business that you want to do. So just look on the screen, you'll see like three names of three big computer companies, right? Dell, HP, and Apple. But without knowing these companies or the products they sell, these names mean nothing to us, right? what does Dell mean or HP mean to you, or like Apple? It doesn't tell you, oh, there's people selling computers or laptops and stuff like that. The first one, I think the first two is the surnames of the people that started the business, Michael Dell and Hewlett Packard, HP. And then the third one is the name of a fruit. It doesn't really tell you anything about laptops or computers. So don't worry about too much about the name of the thing. It's the company that makes the name, not the name that makes the company. It's the products that make the name, not the name that makes the product. So yeah, now you have basically an understanding of how to get started. Write down the list of stuff that you can supply. Write down, think about why people would buy that, who would buy that, and is there enough people that would buy that. Write down a few ideas and let it simmer, and then you can pick the best one of those ideas. If you're happy with that, you move on. If you're not happy with it, keep thinking about different things, discussing it with other people, testing it. If you're happy with an idea, and then once you tested it, analyze it, look at it, and say, did people buy it with ease? Was it easy to sell it to people? Was it difficult? Did nobody buy it? Can I maybe sell it to other people? Will they maybe buy it? Look at those things and then continue, inshallah. So yeah, that's about starting a product, starting a business, and getting the product. Um, then we're just going to talk a little bit about marketing, advertising, and sales. This is common terms in business. Marketing means basically like um, how people view your business, right? So you want to create a certain image and stuff like that. That's marketing, your brand, building a brand. Advertising is more, it's like a part of marketing, but it's more like, how can I say, limited in terms of like, you think of any advertising, you think on a billboard or social media or word of mouth, those types of things, like how you tell people about your product, right? And then sales is basically closing the deal and letting people buy it from you. So yeah, sales also, I want to say, when you do sell, put things into context for people. Like, why is this a valuable thing for them? Think of that. Think of that person in the middle of nowhere, the shopkeeper that's selling the bottle for 50 rand. If he was like selling that bottle of water and justifying why he's charging 50 rand, you just have to say, look here, for 100 kilometers going forward, there's nobody selling water. Do you want to buy the water or not? It's an easy thing. That guy's obviously going to say, look here, I need this water to survive. I'm going to buy it. You didn't have to sell him. You didn't have to tell him, look here, nah, this bottle's quiet, the water tastes liquor, all of those things. You just have to put it into context for him why this person needs to buy the product that you're selling. Then I put there that these things can be learned. So like I said, it's skills that you can learn to sell, to market, to advertise your stuff. You're not born with these things. You need to figure out how can I do it? Do I speak to people? Do I advertise on social media? Do I advertise on a billboard? All of these things, right? And then yeah, I mentioned that no one knows your business. When you're starting out, most likely no one's going to know that you're selling the stuff that you're selling, except maybe a few people that you told. So your job in that time is to make people aware of what you're selling. So you've thought about it now. You have a product that has a lot of value for people. The value is more than the price. You just need to find out how to let people know that this is what you're selling. That's your job, and you need to do that actively. Um, yeah, sorry, let me just go back to that. You need to do that actively. So, say for example, you're selling now kusistas. Now you advertise it on your WhatsApp status. Maybe 100 people will see that you're selling kusistas, right? Because you have 100 contacts. Now 10 people maybe buy. Next week you're still selling kusistas, and you advertise it again on your WhatsApp status. You think, okay, I'm advertising it to 100 people. In the best case scenario, maybe that same 10 people is going to buy, or some other people is going to buy it. But it's not going to be 100 people or 99 people not going to buy from you. What you need to do is you need to expand your net. You need to advertise to new people. You need to tell people that you need to tell more people what you are doing, and why they should buy it from you. Yeah, if it's a very good product, you need to know. If it's a very, very good product, you will need to be less concerned with sales or selling it, because if it's a product that people want, you just have to put it out there, and they're going to come to you, and they're going to ask you, can we buy this product from you? And I don't know if you guys know, but Apple in the early days, when they used to advertise a product that they're selling a new iPhone, people would line the streets, like people will camp outside for days on end just to get that new iPhone. So that is the idea behind the better your product is, the more value it is, the better your reputation also, the less you have to do in terms of selling that product, right? So if you're advertising to the right people that see the value, you won't have to do much work in sales. Yeah. So like I mentioned with Apple also, what carries them nowadays is their reputation. Apple, if they release a new phone, I don't even know like what's making it different from other phones. I just know an Apple product is a good product. So if they're releasing a new product, it must be good. If I'm looking to buy a new phone, I'm going to look at Apple, I'm going to look at Samsung, look at Huawei, because they have a good reputation for building good or for selling good products, right? And your reputation is something that is very, very helpful. Like I said, the better your product, the less work you have to do in sales. But the better your reputation also, the less work you have to do in sales also. So don't chop and change. What I mean by this is like, think of a businessman that he's selling toys and he's selling okay, so say for example, he starts a business in January and he sells toys and he gets like maybe 5 customers for the month, right? At the end of the year, if he continues like that, every month he gets 5 customers, he will have 60 customers, right? And say the next year he puts in the same amount of effort to advertise and find new customers and stuff like that, then he will have another 60 customers, right? And the third year he will have another 60 customers. So this toy salesman, at the end of that, you will have 180 customers. But say, for example, another guy comes and he's selling toys in the first year, then he gets 60 customers, right, after advertising all of those things. And then in the second year, he decides, look, yeah, this is really not that profitable. I worked a whole year. I only made a little bit of profit. I'm rather going to scratch that idea and I'm going to start selling carpets, right? So he's now going to need to go out again and advertise and find a new batch of customers. And say you can only find another 60 customers. Then at the end of the year, he only has 60 customers. But say after in December, he comes and he says, look here, I'm done selling carpets. It's boring. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't think it's profitable. I'm going to sell whiteboard markers. So then he goes again and he advertises, and at the end of the year, he has 60 customers. So the first person here, he has 180 customers after the first 3 years. The second person, he only has 60 customers after the first 3 years. Your customer base will build up as you go along. If your product is good and your service is good and your customers are satisfied, they won't leave. They will come back to you. They'll buy again from you, which means that person is going to continuously buy from you. That person is a customer for life. Now, if you get a new customer, then that person is also another customer for life, right? So it expands. The longer you do it, the more customers you're going to have. But if you keep chopping and changing the whole time, you're going to have to find new customers every time. So that's the idea between chopping and changing. That's why I say don't be a perpetual businessman, somebody that's always starting a business. Stick with the same business. Once you have a good product and you're happy with it, even if it gets boring, even if you're like, now it's boring, I'm doing the same thing every time. If it's working, stick with it, and inshallah, you will build the business. Yeah. So then I also want to touch on word of mouth. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but word of mouth is basically when you know of a good product and you tell your friends about it. Think of a restaurant or something like that you ate by because a friend told you about it, versus how many restaurants that we see advertised on Instagram or TikTok and stuff like that. Just because it's being advertised there doesn't mean anybody's going to go there. But if a friend tells you, look, you must try this restaurant, then you're going to make more effort to go out of your way to go and try that. I went to Saudi now recently, but before I went to Saudi, Sheikh Yasin told me, you must go to this Korean fried chicken place in Maadi. Their stuff is the best. I was like, okay, I'm going to go there. I haven't gone yet, but the point is that from that time, he just had one conversation. He probably forgot about it, but just had one conversation. He told me, look, you must go try that. I have it on my list of things to do, that is the power of word of mouth. You trust people that you know more than what you trust Instagram or YouTube or any ad that you see. because you know that people are paying to put it there, whatever the case is. But your friend is looking out for you. He's gonna share something good that he sees. So that is word of mouth. It's a very, very effective because it's free. All you have to do is focus on making a good product that people want to tell other people about, right? People will do it without any effort from your side. People will tell people about that product without any effort. That chicken shop didn't ask Sheikh Yasin, look here, go spread the word and tell people like we need more customers and stuff. Just because the product was good enough, he thought, okay, I'm gonna share it with my friends and tell them they must come there. So the point here is to focus on your product, make a good product that's remarkable, and people will tell other people about it. Same thing with the airlines. Also, you mentioned, you're going to tell your friends, Qatar Airways, they're offering water for £5 compared to other airlines. Then the next slide is focusing on expanding your customer base. Like I said, if you advertise, you're selling consisters every week, just on your WhatsApp status, you're not really going to you're not going to grow that much. If your consisters is good, maybe the people that bought it, they're going to buy again and they're going to maybe tell their friends. But you also have an option to actively go out and advertise your product. Maybe if I was like selling consisters, I would say, look here, if you put this on your status, on your WhatsApp status, then I'll give you like 50% off for this order. And what that does is it introduces your product to another 100 people. Or maybe say me and Fai, we know 10 people in common. So if he advertises the consisters on his WhatsApp status, 90 new people will see that product, right? So you're basically spreading your net wider and wider, and you need to make an effort to tell people about what you're doing. You need to go out there and let people know. If you stay with 100 people that you know that's seeing your status, your business is not going to grow as it can. Yeah. So now we know like about advertising, we know about the product that we want to have. So I'm just going to talk about maintaining your business. And I mentioned earlier that you must know your costs. All right. So this is a very important thing. To make your business more profitable, you can either lower the cost or you can up the sales, up the revenue, right? So if you're selling 100, if you're selling maybe the pens, right, at 20 rand a pen, you can either buy the pens cheaper, the same pens cheaper, maybe buying in bulk, you get a discount, and you're buying it at 7 rand a pen, then you're going to be making more profit. Or you can sell the pen for 25 rand instead of 20 rand, and you're going to be making more profit. So you have one of two options: to lower the cost or to up the revenue, up the price and stuff like that, or get more people buying from you. So yeah, I wrote an example about it. A guy that's selling toys, right? So say for example, he starts in January and he sells maybe he gets 5 customers for the month, but from that 5 customers, he maybe makes like 8,000 rand for the month. Say that's his only job, but his costs, his expenses is like 10,000 rand every month. Every month he's going to be short 2,000 rand. His cost is more than what he's making. So in this situation where you may be stuck in a certain place where you're like, I tried everything, I can't really make more money. What you need to do is lower your expenses. Sometimes it's your living expenses, or sometimes it's the business expenses. If that guy could make it, lower his business expenses to 8,000 or his personal expenses to 8,000 rand, that would mean that he's making enough money to survive for an indefinite amount of time. He can survive for 2, 3, 4 years, doesn't matter, because he's making enough to cover his costs. But say that same person didn't lower his costs and is still only earning 8,000 rand. By the time October comes, he runs out of his savings, because that's now 10 months that he has to spend extra 2,000 rand from what he saved up before. Now, this is important for this business, but for businesses in general. The longer you stay alive as a business, the more chance of success you have. Because if you look at that person that's selling toys, he's selling toys 5 customers a month, but when it comes to December, if he's in South Africa, December is Christmas time, right? So people's going to buy more toys. So maybe all the people that bought for the whole year, they're going to buy extra toy now because it's December. They want to give the children toys. Maybe 50 people bought. In the rest of the year, you're only selling 5 toys a month. But in December, he's selling 50 toys a month. And the reason he could do that is because he kept his business alive. The other person who ended in October, just 2 months earlier, he didn't make that money. He didn't make the profit that he could have made because his business died out because his expenses were too high. So that's the importance of maintaining your costs. Yeah. So now, okay, so that's basically how far we're going to go with this workshop, because there's a lot of things to do in business, but you need to first go step by step. A small business that's starting out is different to a medium business, and a medium business is different to a big business. If you now the owner of a big business, you need to have other set of skills that's not relevant to a small business, right? You need to know how to manage people. You need to know how to maybe negotiate and bargain more, all of those things. How to delegate tasks to people. Those are skills that when you're just starting out, you won't need to know. So this is how far we're going to go with the workshop. And once you have a product that is good, it provides more value than the price, and you can keep your customers happy, and you can expand your customer base, and you can sell more, then just keep doing that, and inshallah it will be successful and to be good enough to sustain yourself. And when I say expand here, I mean expanding the customer base that you have, but you can also expand in different products. So say for example you have a say for example Fai's business about selling samosas. He's perfected a product maybe, and it's good, and he has a customer base, and he decides, okay, look, I'm going to start selling spring rolls. So now you have two different prices. You've expanded your offering. So now people can come to you, the same customer, instead of just buying 10 samosas, you buy 10 samosas and 10 spring rolls. So you expanding. Yeah, and you just need to keep at that, and it will be sustainable and profitable, inshallah. There's a caution on trends and uniqueness. Kind of self-explanatory. If you're selling something that is trending, your business is going to die when the trend dies. So, say for example, a few months ago, you want to start a business and you decide, okay, I'm going to buy a container of Dubai chocolate because everyone's trying this pistachio chocolate. Once a trend dies, people's not going to have that hype to buy that thing. So you need to be aware: is the thing that I'm selling based on trends, or is it something that people actually want? Is it a recurring need? That's probably the best place to be in a business, is when people need your product and they come to you over and over again. Um, Say, look at Dubai chocolate or any other luxury compared to maybe like toilet paper. If you're selling toilet paper at a good price and you have a good customer base and you're keeping your customers happy, they're going to be repeat customers for life, because everybody needs toilet paper and you run out of toilet paper. So you're going to keep coming back, right? So a question to ask yourself is, the product that I have, will people still buy it down the line, maybe 5 years, 10 years, or a year, whatever the case is? Certain products, maybe it's not like that. Say, for example, this business workshop, you're not going to now to buy the same workshop or go for the same workshop again in a few years' time, whatever, because you've done it already. Maybe you want to go to another one, but yeah, the point is that not all the businesses will be where people come back again. But maybe as for this business workshop, I can teach it to other students that are in your position, So, yeah. Then there's just some tips for being a successful business person, and these are like personal tips and habits that you can inculcate. The first one is a bit cheesy, but it is to believe in yourself. It's like uh, there's a good saying that I like, actually. I think it's the guy that started Ford. It's attributed to him. It's whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can do it, nah, then you can do it. If you think you can't do it, nah, then you can't do it. Just think about it. For example, say for example you were in Cape Town back a few years ago before you came to Egypt, and you're speaking to a friend of yours, and he say, "Look here, and I'm in. You can't go live in Egypt alone. You don't even know the language. You don't know the people. It's going to be expensive." He's telling you all the reasons why you can't do it, and you're telling yourself, "Look here, man, I can live in Egypt. I'll learn the language. I'll make it work." Um, in the case, maybe you're supposed to in the same circumstances, but that person that thinks he can't do it, he's right, because he told himself already, "Look here, I can't do it." But you that said, "Look here, I can do it," you managed to figure out a way. So you're here now, and you are doing it. So believe in yourself. Believe that you can start a business, and believe that it will be successful, inshallah, and you'll find a way to make it successful. And then the other thing is a personal point also. Have a vision for where you want to be. Like for me, Alhamdulillah, like when I was in high school already, I knew, look, I want to be studying Islamic studies. I want to be studying overseas, and I want to have a business that's sustaining myself while I do that. So Alhamdulillah, like I've managed to achieve that. And what I one of the things I attributed to is that I had a vision for where I want to be, and I figured out how am I going to get there. My business is selling stuff to municipalities in Cape Town, and I'm sitting in Egypt. A lot of people think that's like impossible. How do you do that? I figured out ways to that I could make it work. So if you know where you want to be, you just have to figure out like how am I going to get there. Other thing is just like spend time with people that you want to be like. It's a general advice. If you want to be a good alim, whatever the case is, spend time with people that are like serious about the studies. If you want to be a good business person, also find friends that are serious about starting businesses. Your conversations are going to be about that. You're going to be speaking about how can I make a business, how can I make money. You can ask each other questions. You can say, look here, nah, that's not a good business, whatever the case is. You can help each other in that way. The other thing is learn from those who've done it before. So if you know somebody that has a successful business, you can speak to them, ask them questions, ask them, will this be a good business? What do you think about this? Can you give me some advice? And they will give you advice, inshallah. Like if anyone's done it before, generally they're willing to speak to people and help them out. Yeah. Other thing is exposing yourself to positive content. This is also something that I do that I don't know if a lot of people do it, but it's just like being around people, listening to things that's telling you like you can do it, you can learn Arabic, you can become successful at business. The more that you learn, like know there are people that's doing it. It's not that difficult, or you can do it. You're programming your mind to think that I can actually do it. So it's a bit of a it's not really specifically to do with business, but it can help you in business also, inshallah. Other thing is building positive habits, not being lazy, working hard, looking out for opportunities. Like I said, constantly looking out. Make it a habit that when you see a product or a service, you think about it. Is it good? Why do people want to buy it? Why wouldn't people want to buy it? Does it offer value? Who does it offer value to? All of those things. And the other thing is focus. It's also straightforward. Like imagine you have an exam tomorrow and you need to study this Nahu book, whatever the case is. So you go to the library. You go to the library and you come there and you see all these books in front of you and you're like, look, I want to read this Sarf book a bit. I want to read this. I want to brush up on my Ajrumiyya. All those things are like good, but like you came here for a purpose to study. If you leave the library and you didn't manage to focus on what you needed to do, even though you did stuff that are good, you kind of failed in your purpose, right? So you need to focus. When it comes to business, there's always distractions. There's always stuff that's going to be like not important. You think like, what color is the brand going to be? What color is the logo going to be? Like you need to think about, is this product actually helping people? Okay, if it is helping people, I need to sell it to people. How am I going to sell it to people? Don't worry. Like don't think like, must it be yellow? Must it be green? Like just think about what you need to do and do that thing. And focus on what you need to do, inshallah. So that's basically the course. What do you guys think? Have any questions? Any comments?
So, like, if you have a idea or something that if you're going to share it with someone else, you must trust in that person that you're going to share it with. Otherwise,
Yeah, you must. I would say like maybe to combat that, like look at a successful person already that you know, and discuss it with him. Don't discuss it with just anybody. There's a nice saying that by a guy called Robert Kiyosaki. Like he says that if you want to tell people what you're going to do, it's fine, but show them first. Like don't tell people, now I'm going to start a business. Just start the business, and then you can tell them afterwards, look, yeah, I started a business. I'm doing this thing. Because the more you tell people beforehand of something, the more satisfied you feel that that thing is actually done. Like for example, when I was a child, I wanted to be a pilot. I told everybody, look, I'm going to be a pilot. Now everybody's saying, oh, this guy's so smart, you want to be a pilot. Then you just check, like, look, yeah, it's not worth it, man. People really think like I'm smart enough to be a pilot, so it's fine. Don't have to put the effort in, right? So don't tell people too much about it, but find somebody that you trust. If it's a successful business person, like most of the time, they're not gonna want to steal your business idea. Like they're not gonna want to. You say, look, I'm gonna sell cars, and they maybe have a business selling pens and they're successful, they're not gonna now worry now. Okay, I'm gonna start selling cars now because this guy came to me with a good idea. You know what I'm saying? They living a successful life, then it's fine. They're happy with that. You know. So find somebody that you trust and that you can speak to. Yeah. Anything else? Any other comments or questions? Like,
Why do you say you must avoid selling because you can?
why do I say just because you can? Like, not saying that you must sell it. Like, you mustn't do it. If you can, I'm just saying you mustn't do it just because you can. Like, just because I can buy salatops doesn't mean that it's a good idea to sell salatops because maybe no one really wants to buy salatops, or maybe there's a lot of other people that's selling it. Not just doing something because you can. Like, think about it. Think about it from your perspective as a customer. Like, say for example, somebody you know is now selling bicycles. But okay, maybe say some one of us, the students now decide, okay, we're gonna sell laptops now, just because we can in Egypt. Now they go back home and Savans is selling maybe the same laptops or whatever the case is, or you can find it in Gatesville. Like, why is people gonna come to you if you're selling it for the same price? Maybe your friends are gonna come to you, but that's about it. Because if they go to Gatesville might be selling that laptops, but they might be offering more stuff also. So it makes sense to go and buy it in Gatesville. Don't just sell something just because you can. Like, sell something, yeah, because it adds value. But in a other way of looking at it, maybe in other tone, when we're looking at the list of things that we have, that maybe your network, your history in Egypt, maybe for example, all the stuff that you looking at, what do I have that can assist me in selling a product? Then you're going to say, what can I sell? What is it that I can sell? Then you're kind of selling something because you can sell it. But don't just sell something just because you can sell it. Yeah. Yeah, like you need to look at, when you're looking at what do I have, it's a kind of a new concept that your brain might struggle with, because to you, everybody knows what you know, or like everybody's exposed to what you're exposed to. Say for example, Al Rahman, like he's interested in AI and stuff like that. Now you might think, you know what, everybody's on the internet, everybody knows about AI and stuff like that. But the reality is that not everybody is aware of what's happening in the AI space. So Al Rahman could maybe say like, look, I know I can do AI stuff. I'll maybe start a business with that. Because he's on the space of AI, he's watching people make stuff about with AI, and he's thinking everybody's doing it. It's so easy. Like, there's no reason why I should be doing it. But the reality is, not everybody's doing it. Not everybody knows how to do it. It's just because you're in that environment, you're thinking that everybody's doing it. Now you look at AI, and then you're also interested in business. Now you say, how can I mix those two things? So there's an interesting guy on TikTok, like he makes AI videos, and under the name of Rabbi Goldman. So like he's using a rabbi AI character, and he's like in a Bentley or something like that, and he's like talking about making money. And some people don't even realize it's AI, but it's obviously AI. And that guy said, okay, you know what? I'm doing this now for the Jewish community and stuff like that, because I have connections there, I have a network there, I have access to the network. I know other people think. So you could maybe do the same thing. I'm not saying you must do the same thing, but I actually know that I think that person does the same thing for Muslims. So he made a character like a sheikh in a private plane, and the sheikh is giving the same advice as Rabbi Goldman. So look at things that make you unique. In that circumstance, say for example, you were the Jewish kid and you were like, okay, I know AI and I know business and I'm part of a Jewish community, then you can start that business. It's like bringing 3 different aspects of your life together. For me, like the business challenge, the business workshop is similar to that. I'm interested in business. I want to help the students, and I'm living in Egypt, so I started a business workshop for students in Egypt. Yeah, that's basically the end of the course. So I did have a challenge, but I don't know if you guys are keen to do the challenge. I wanted to do this workshop last week after Eid, the day after Eid, but I was a bit delayed. So the problem with the challenge is that I'm not going to be here in a week's time. So we can't have a second course, in person. But if you guys want to do the challenge, it's basically I was going to put you in groups, maybe groups of 3 or whatever the case is, and you guys come up with a business and you start the business, see how it goes, and then after a week we will like evaluate and judge and see whose business is the best. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be in a week's time. You can think about it and let me know if you want to do the challenge, if you want to do it online, or if you're not really that. You have other things. I know some of you guys have exams and stuff like that. But yeah, what do you guys think? What's your thoughts? Any questions?
I have a question.
تفضل.
So, when you want to start a business,
Mm.
your mindset is right.
Mm.
Mentally, emotionally, physically as well. Everything on par, but you don't have a capital. You don't have access to the capital.
So like in my experience, like people always think that the capital's the problem. But it's not really the problem because there's a lot of people that do have a capital out there that can assist you. If it's a really good business and you know somebody, you can approach somebody and say, look, I want to start this business. Will you go into it with me? There's two options. Either you're going to find somebody that has a capital because there's people that have money, that have excess money, that don't know what to do with their money, and they're willing to invest. Or you're going to have to build up the capital that you need, either through your business or starting out small. So, for example, selling samosas, you start selling more and more and more samosas, and you keep the profit until you have like enough, or you maybe work and you save up that money. So it's either you're gonna work and save up the money, or you're gonna find somebody else that can invest in the business for you, or you can get a loan also for the business if you're like serious about it. But it does take a lot of effort if you don't have facilities available. But that shouldn't be something that's going to stop you from starting a business. Yeah, if you now go to other, say you go to people that you know that maybe have extra capital, and none of them want to invest, either one of two things: either it's not worth investing, or they don't see the value in investing it. And in that second case, where you think, these people don't see the value, you're gonna have to just find somebody else that can invest.
What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome?
So I started like 4-5 different businesses. One was like renting out motorbikes for was the delivery and stuff like that in Cape Town. One of the challenges there was also capital, so we started out buying second-hand bikes and stuff like that. But another challenge was we came in late, and all the good drivers were basically taken. And so the drivers that were coming in, they didn't know how to ride the bikes and stuff like that. The one driver, he absolutely didn't know how to ride a bike, and he knocked the bike. And so I said, look, if I'm going to rent out another bike, I'm going to teach the guy how to drive the bike and make sure he knows how to drive it. Then the guy drove the bike, he knocked the bike. Then I said, look here, no man, I need to put out a contract to this person, and I need to enforce the contract, right? Well, actually, I didn't know. I just said I'm going to start the contract. I gave the next person a contract, and then the guy was looking at the bike. The bike was living outside or in the yard, and then I went inside to go fetch the contract. As the contract's printing, I just hear the guy got in the bike, and he knocked into the neighbor's gate, and he broke some of his teeth, and he went to hospital and stuff. And the bike was also like broken in front. And then another guy, he took one of my bikes, like he rented one of my bikes, but then he knocked the bike and he didn't have money to pay. And I said, it's not only good enough to have a contract, but you need to be able to enforce the contract. Yeah, that was one of the challenges there. The other challenge was in my fruit and veg business. Like I was starting the business and selling fruit and veg from home during COVID and making different like fruit boxes, like I said. It was kind of a unique product. I don't know if like people really wanted it. I had a few customers and they would come back and stuff like that. I'll maybe sell like 10 or 20 boxes for the week on a Friday. But then I started selling the fruit like as per usual, like someone can order apples or bananas, whatever the case is. And then I was telling my auntie about this business, and she asked me like, "What makes you different?" And like I remember exactly where I was sitting when she asked the question, and how I felt like I don't actually know what makes me different. Like I can say customer service, but is it really like that? because everybody can say that. I mean, Chickers can also say, fruit and veg can say it's the customer service. We offer good prices. I didn't really know what makes me different, but after a while, I realized that it's that personal relationship that you have with the clients, and that's another thing. So, if I had to look at it, I would say like my size is a disadvantage because I'm small. I can't buy in bulk like fruit and veg. I can't get big discounts. But the advantage that I have as a small business owner is that I can build a one-on-one personal relationship with the customers that I have, and I can give them good, better service than fruit and veg can ever do because they have cashiers there. They have it's a big business. They can never do what I'm doing. So in that sense, it makes you different. So you need to know like what makes you different. That is one of the challenges in my business, my current business, like selling stuff to the municipality, like cash flow, money is a challenge. And so I was looking around at what I can do. And I found this thing by Al Baraka Bank. They basically will buy the product for you and then sell it to you, resell it to you at a higher price. But you'll just have to pay, you're allowed to pay like after a month, 2 months. It's called Mudaraba, I think. Huh?
Yeah, and very right.
So it's like that, and they basically buy the stuff for me, and then I can I buy it from them through contract, and then pay them back at a later stage. So in that way, that's how I, in my own business, deal with not having enough money in the business. So those are some of the challenges that I faced. Yeah.
And in terms of what is the measure to know that your business is successful in terms of profit over the years? Because obviously improving gradually. What is the percentage that you're looking at that? At least for small business, I know that on these shows like Dragon's Den
Yeah.
and these things, they usually lose for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
They're bigger businesses.
Yeah, so it depends on the size of the business, but also like since it's you starting the business, you have to gauge and say like, I'm fine with growing at 50% or 20% or whatever the case is. Don't always also like focus too much on growth or like the numbers at the beginning, especially because generally you're not going to be making a lot of money. You're not going to be making enough money to cover your own, the cost of your salary. So you want to build up until you get to that stage. And different businesses like take a different amount of time. Like we think, you look at all these businesses and you think they just popped up, but the reality is that it's not. Like Netflix, I think, started like in 1995, but I mean, we only heard about Netflix in like 2015 or something like that. So it's actually like it's a very old, it's a 30-year-old business, but we only know about Netflix for the last maybe 5 years or so, like that. So it takes a lot of time.
And then just one more question: there's a lot of power in working in a team.
Yeah.
In a business, but it also comes with its own challenges. How do you navigate that?
So personally, like I prefer to work alone in a business. Not alone, but I prefer to like own a business because there's different issues that you run into. If you have a partner, maybe the partner not pulling his weight, and that can cause issues further down the line. But if you're working in a team, you also have an advantage in that you can do more work, or you can come up with different ideas because everybody has their own flavor, has their own spice, has their own ideas, and you have somebody that can also tell you this is a good idea or not a good idea.
Yeah, someone holds you accountable as well.
Someone holds you accountable also, correct?
Flow of the business.
Correct. Keeps you disciplined also.
But then when it comes to like negotiating between people, like actually someone brought me into a business recently.
Yeah.
They asked me to do some audiobooks in English, but they don't speak English. So he provided like the studio and some capital.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything, so
Yeah.
he was like, okay, how are we going to split?
Yeah.
So he said, okay, we'll do it 50-50.
Yeah.
And so I just said, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So these are things like I wouldn't have known any better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one to say. Yeah, I think like in that circumstances, taking a percentage it can be a good thing if it's a good product because you never know how far the product can go.
Yeah.
Especially with audio services, like thousands of people can download it at the same time and you can be earning money.
No, we haven't
Or-
even done it.
Or nobody can download it and you're putting 50-50 in and you're making nothing. So it depends on the business, and I don't know if Sheikh thought it's a good idea, or if Sheikh maybe thinking now like maybe I shouldn't have done that just because somebody offered.
Well, yeah,
to.
I mean, nothing's really.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else have any questions, thoughts, ideas that they want to share? Maybe I want to ask, like, give you a little bit of a small challenge, like, say something about yourself that makes you unique, or that's like an unfair advantage that you have over the rest of us here. Say we all want to start a business, but give me like an unfair advantage that you have. It could be anything. I'll maybe give some of Sheikh's. Maybe Sheikh has like many years of experience in Arabic. That's an unfair advantage of maybe Isi has experience with motorbikes. That's an unfair advantage that he has. Abdurrahman, maybe the AI or the gaming, stuff like that. Mustafa, maybe also his time in Egypt is an unfair advantage over all of us. Isi, I don't know, he's an all-rounder. Nah, maybe it's his, I don't know, is the network that he has, the people that he connects with, because he, you know, connects with a lot of students. Fire, maybe he's good in the kitchen. That's maybe an unfair advantage that he has. Abdul Qadir, I don't know, he's from PE. That's the only thing I can think of. Lutfi, I don't know, nice guy. But from Weinberg, so I mean, why not? Woodstock, well, he's a Muadhin, maybe that's an unfair advantage that he have for us. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Think of something that you have that none of us here in the room has. Anyone want to start, or must we just go from? Huh?